Benin, a small West African nation, has long been seen as a rare democratic success in a turbulent region. But on December 7, 2025, that reputation was shaken when a group of soldiers attempted a coup. The plotters struck before dawn, aiming to seize key state institutions and announce their takeover. Their actions exposed the fragility of Benin's democracy and the growing threat of military takeovers in West Africa. The coup attempt, though quickly foiled, forced the nation to confront deep political and social tensions. Soldiers cited grievances from insecurity in the north to economic hardship, sparking a national debate about the country's direction. This story unpacks how the coup unfolded, how it was stopped, and what it means for Benin's future. By examining these events, we gain insight into the challenges facing one of West Africa's most important democracies. In the early morning hours, as the city of Cotonou was just beginning to stir, a group of heavily armed soldiers stormed Benin's national television station. The streets outside were eerily quiet, save for the rumble of military trucks and the hurried footsteps of men in uniform. Their mission was clear and meticulously planned. Bursting into the broadcasting facility, the soldiers quickly took control, interrupting regular programming. Journalists and staff were rounded up and held at gunpoint, forced to watch as the coup leaders prepared to address the nation. The tension in the studio was palpable, every camera now focused on the armed men who had seized the airwaves. Lieutenant Colonel Pascal Tigri, flanked by grim-faced soldiers, appeared on screen. With a steady voice, he declared the government dissolved and the constitution suspended, sending shockwaves through households across Benin. The announcement was both dramatic and chilling, signaling a complete break from the existing order. The coup leaders wasted no time. They announced the immediate closure of all borders and the creation of a military committee for Refoundation, a new body that would assume control of the country. The message was clear: the old government was gone, and a new era was beginning, one led by the military. To justify their actions, the soldiers cited a litany of grievances: growing insecurity in the north, the government's neglect of families of fallen soldiers, and the deepening economic hardship faced by ordinary Beninese. They claimed that only decisive military intervention could restore order and dignity to the nation. The broadcast was a calculated show of force, designed to project strength and instill a sense of inevitability. The officers' stern faces and commanding presence were meant to convince both the public and the military that a new regime was firmly in control and that resistance would be futile. For hours, uncertainty and fear gripped the country. People gathered around radios and televisions, desperate for news and clarity. The streets of Cotonou emptied as military vehicles patrolled, and rumors spread rapidly, fueling anxiety about what might come next. The fate of Benin's fragile democracy now hung in the balance. Citizens waited anxiously for any sign of a response from the ousted government or the international community, unsure whether to hope for a peaceful resolution or brace for further turmoil. The soldiers' grievances resonated with some segments of the population, who saw the coup as a response to real problems. But for many others, the sudden seizure of power threatened to plunge the nation into chaos, risking violence and deepening divisions. Around the world, news outlets scrambled to cover the unfolding crisis. Foreign governments and international organizations watched closely, wondering if Benin's hard-won democratic order would survive this latest test. As dawn broke over Benin, the nation stood at a crossroads. The next move, by the military, the people, or the international community, would determine the country's future for years to come. The government acted swiftly, moving with a sense of urgency that reflected the gravity of the situation. Within hours of the first reports, key officials convened emergency meetings, coordinating a response that would shape the outcome of the day. Countering the coup's message with modern tactics, authorities deployed security forces to strategic locations and worked to regain control of vital communication channels. The government understood that in today's world, information moves fast, and so must those who wish to control it. Interior Minister Alassane Seidou bypassed the seized broadcaster, posting a video on social media to announce the coup had failed. This digital maneuver allowed the government to reach citizens directly, countering rumors and confusion with a clear, authoritative message. He praised the loyalty of the armed forces, isolating the plotters and sowing doubt among potential supporters. By highlighting the unity and discipline of the military, the government sent a powerful signal that the chain of command remained intact. President Patrice Talon soon appeared on live TV, calm and resolute after loyalists retook the station. His composed demeanor reassured a nation on edge, projecting confidence and stability at a critical moment. He reassured the nation, commended the military's professionalism, and vowed justice for the mutineers. Talon's words were measured but firm, promising that those responsible would be held accountable under the law. The government's rapid response, regaining control of communications and arresting 14 plotters, was decisive. Security forces moved quickly to detain those involved, preventing the unrest from spreading further. By evening, the coup had collapsed, and order was restored. Streets that had been tense and uncertain returned to a cautious calm as citizens watched events unfold with relief and apprehension. The crisis revealed the importance of controlling information in modern power struggles. The government's ability to communicate quickly and effectively proved just as crucial as its military response. The government's actions not only foiled the coup, but also reinforced its authority. In the aftermath, officials emphasized unity and resilience, seeking to reassure both the public and international observers. Yet, the day's events left lingering questions about the nation's stability. Conversations in markets and homes turned to the future, as people wondered what deeper tensions might have led to such a bold attempt. The threat had been contained, but the underlying issues remained. For Benin, the challenge now was not just to restore order, but to address the root causes that had allowed unrest to surface in the first place. As the coup unfolded, Cotonou's streets erupted in chaos. Sirens wailed through the city as residents scrambled for safety, unsure of where the next threat might come from. The air was thick with tension, and the sense of panic was palpable. People abandoned cars and market stalls, seeking shelter wherever they could find it, while rumors spread rapidly through the crowd. Gunfire and explosions echoed near the presidential residence, confirming the conflict was more than political theater. The sharp crack of rifles and the distant boom of grenades left no doubt that this was a real battle for power, not just a show of force. Military vehicles sped through the streets, their presence both reassuring and intimidating to those caught in the crossfire. Reports suggested airstrikes targeted mutinous soldiers, while the battle for the state broadcaster left the city in an information blackout. The skies above Cotonou roared with the sound of military aircraft, and plumes of smoke marked the sites of intense clashes. With the state broadcaster silenced, rumors and misinformation filled the void, deepening the confusion. Journalists were held hostage until loyalist forces stormed the building and restored the signal, a turning point in the crisis. The dramatic rescue was broadcast live once the signal returned, offering a rare moment of hope amid the turmoil. For many, it was a sign that the government was regaining control. President Talon's televised appearance reassured citizens that order was returning. His calm demeanor and firm words were meant to restore confidence, but the uncertainty lingered. People gathered around televisions and radios, clinging to any sign of stability. Embassies issued urgent warnings, underscoring the seriousness of the violence. Foreign nationals were advised to shelter in place, and diplomatic staff braced for further unrest, highlighting the international concern over Benin's fragile situation. By nightfall, the main confrontation was over, but the scars of the day lingered. Burned vehicles and shattered glass littered the streets, while soldiers maintained a tense watch over the city. The silence that followed was heavy, filled with the echoes of the day's violence. The city's fear and uncertainty were a stark reminder of how quickly stability can unravel. Families huddled indoors, afraid to venture out, and neighbors whispered anxiously about what might happen next. The sense of vulnerability was shared by all. The failed coup left Benin's capital shaken, its people wary of what might come next. Conversations in the aftermath were hushed and cautious, as citizens tried to process the trauma and brace for possible aftershocks. The restoration of state media symbolized the government's victory, but also the fragility of peace. The return of familiar voices to the airwaves brought some comfort, yet the underlying tension remained, a reminder that stability could still be fleeting. The events would not be forgotten soon. For the people of Cotonou, the memory of that day would linger, a stark lesson in how quickly life can change and how precious peace truly is. Benin's government quickly called for international help. Nigeria responded, sending fighter jets that helped loyalist forces retake key sites. ECOWAS, the West African regional bloc, condemned the coup and deployed its standby force to support Benin's army. The African Union echoed this stance, reinforcing a zero-tolerance policy for military takeovers. This united front isolated the plotters and bolstered President Talon's legitimacy. The rapid response sent a message: unconstitutional power grabs would not be tolerated. International support was crucial in restoring order and defending Benin's democracy. The crisis showed the power of regional solidarity in the face of instability. President Patrice Talon, a businessman turned leader, has ruled Benin since 2016. His presidency brought economic reforms, but also accusations of eroding democracy and consolidating power. A recent constitutional amendment extended presidential terms, fueling opposition fears of a power grab. The ruling party's control over candidate selection has further narrowed political competition. Disqualified opposition candidates and imprisoned rivals have deepened divisions. The tense political climate set the stage for the coup attempt. While Talon's government touts stability, critics warn of growing disenfranchisement. The failed coup exposed the risks of political exclusion and centralized authority. Benin's coup attempt is part of a troubling regional trend. After independence, Benin endured years of coups before transitioning to democracy in the 1990s. For decades, it was seen as a model for peaceful transfers of power. But recent years have seen a wave of military takeovers across West Africa: Mali, Guinea, Burkina Faso, Niger, and Guinea-Bissau. The so-called coup belt has fractured the region, with juntas forming alliances and breaking from ECOWAS. Benin's attempted coup is a warning: even resilient democracies are vulnerable. The spread of military rule threatens to undermine decades of democratic progress. The failed coup in Benin highlights the urgent need to defend constitutional order. Regional instability is no longer a distant threat. It's at Benin's doorstep. The stakes for democracy in West Africa have never been higher. News of the coup attempt sent shockwaves through Benin. Fear and confusion gripped Cotonou as citizens sheltered indoors, desperate for reliable information. Relief followed when the government announced the coup's failure and President Talon appeared on TV. For many, it was a victory for democracy, but the soldiers' grievances sparked debate about real issues facing the country. ECOWAS and the African Union condemned the coup, deploying support and reinforcing a zero-tolerance stance. Their swift action politically isolated the plotters and legitimized the government's response. The crisis united regional bodies in defense of democracy, but also highlighted the challenges Benin must address. The failed coup left Benin at a crossroads. The government's quick response restored order, but deep divisions remain. Grievances over security, the economy, and political exclusion cannot be ignored. The administration faces a choice: address these issues or risk future unrest. The crisis is a test of Benin's democratic resilience and commitment to justice. How the government responds will shape the nation's future. The events of December 7th are a warning for all of West Africa. Democracy must be defended, not taken for granted. Benin's next steps will determine whether it emerges stronger or more divided.